Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Heartbeat of Bartlett. The Heartbeat of Bartlett is a podcast series that is put together by the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce and proudly sponsored by First South Financial. The purpose of this podcast series is to showcase the small business community of the city of Bartlett and the amazing amenities within the city that serve both the community members and our small business community, because of course, small business is the heartbeat of any community. Today, our guests are fantastic. My co-host today is John Threadgill from the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce.
Howdy.
And our guest today is Paul Wright, who heads up the Parks and Recreation Department of the City of Bartlett. And I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Maria McLendon. I'm Chief Marketing Officer for First South Financial. And I will turn it over to, I'll turn it over to John to introduce himself first.
Oh, well, I'm John Threadgill. You said that earlier.
I said your name, but tell them a little bit about yourself, John.
Oh, well, I'm the...
I know everything about you, but not everybody does.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm John Threadgill, and I'm president of the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm just so happy to be here, and I'm glad that Maria is taking the lead on this. But we do appreciate Paul taking the time to come by. Bartlett City Parks and Recs has a lot to tell us. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun and quick 30 minutes. So.
That's right.
Paul, if you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at Parks and Rec.
Sure. So my name is Paul Wright. I am the Director of Parks and Recreation for the city. I've been in this role since January of this year. I've been with the city since March of 2015. I'm one of the few employees that can say that this is his second tour with the city of Bartlett. I actually worked back when I was in college as a part-time staff at the Recreation Center, and then went on to graduate and was the full-time fitness manager at the Rec Center for a period of time. Had an opportunity to actually open up my own small business. It was a wellness facility that worked in conjunction with my father's medical practice. We ran that for about 11 years. When we closed the business, I was looking for something to get back into, saw the opening at the Rec Center, and so I applied, and in March of 15, I became the program manager at the Rec Center. Was able to do that for about 3.5 years, and then had the opportunity to move forward and become the facility manager for Singleton Community Center. Ran that for about 18 months, and then Mayor McDonald at the time asked me to become the assistant director. I went into that role in January of 2020, and now I'm serving as the director of Parks and Recreation. So it's been a quick ride, a wild and fun ride, and I'm super excited to be doing what I'm doing.
Well, we're super excited to have you on the show and talk about all of the things that the Parks and Rec Department and the City of Bartlett collectively are doing for the community, because we were chatting a little bit off camera, and I think there's more stuff going on that people can participate in than ever before. Right. And I think that it's interesting because most people have a very vague idea of what city government does, and perhaps an even more vague idea of what a Parks and Rec department does.
Pick up the garbage is what most people think of.
Is that what? Yeah. Oh yeah, well, like a city, like a local city, like that's what people think of, right? Like
my daughter, who's now 10, when she was about 5 or 6, and I went into administration, she would tell her classmates, well, my daddy, he enforces rules and he picks up trash. So there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah. And that is something I do. I'm always out and about, and if I see a litter on the ground when I'm out and about, and I pick it up and throw it away.
Anyone should do that.
Sure, that's right. It's what any good citizen should do.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, so in your introduction, you talk about the Bartlett Rec Center, you talk about Singleton Community Center, and I think many people don't realize that is part of the Parks and Rec umbrella.
Right.
And the Parks and Rec Department offers so many different amenities that the community can enjoy. Can you talk a little bit about all of the things that fall under your umbrella?
So Parks and Rec encompasses 29 different park locations, and that includes some of our facilities. We have acreage of over 1,000 acres of parkland itself. And in addition to that, we're responsible for the care of 238 acres of green belts across the city. So 1,239 total acres underneath our purview, and that's spread across the entire geographic area of the city. We've got parks as small as half of an acre. The Elva T. Blake Bledsoe Park, which is also the geographic center of Shelby County, if you weren't aware. That's our smallest park.
I was not aware.
All the way up to our largest park, which most people think is Freeman Park, but it's actually Nesbitt Park, or more affectionately known by the community as Stanky Creek. That one towers at 335 acres. We've got 3 different facilities. Singleton Community Center, of course, that was really the impetus for the entire Parks and Recreation Department. That's where all of Parks and Rec started back in the 80s, was at Singleton Community Center. So from there you had your camp programming that began, your preschool programming, some of your community events like your Halloween Carnival that's still going on today, our St. Valentine's Day 5K, 10K run started at Singleton. Our senior center didn't exist at the time. Our senior programming all happened at Singleton. We had a robust senior fitness class, ceramics classes. It grew to the size where it needed its own facility, and so now it is a standalone at what used to be the Bartlett Police Station, also a jail at one time, also City Hall at one time. They're right across from the high school, so the Bartlett Senior Center serves citizens ages 50 and up. We've got our new facility, or newly branded facility, the venue at Bartlett Station. Previously it was known as Bartlett Station Municipal Center. We rebranded this past year to become the venue at Bartlett Station. That's one of our facilities as well. It came underneath our purview in December of 22. And so that's one of the facilities we're beginning to program out, offering more events and activities beyond just the rentals that have been occurring there as well. There's always something going on, whether it's a special event. We've started the Rec Rover, which is one of our new initiatives. We've done 3 pop-up events over the past few weeks. We're partnering with the City for Food Truck Fridays. The Bartlett Live Concert Series that just kicked off this past weekend. We assist in Music by the Lake, in the Fall Festival, and the Christmas Parade. If something's going on in the city of Bartlett, there's a good chance that Parks and Rec is involved in it.
So hearing you talk, I have 12 different questions that I want to ask. So first, what is the Rec Rover?
So the Rec Rover, great question. So the Rec Rover came out of our master plan process that we've just gone through. So we're surveying the public and trying to identify what are you interested in doing. And they wanted more family activities. They wanted more opportunities to get outside and do things together. And so we had a 24-foot trailer that was just sitting at our maintenance shop doing nothing more than storing items in it. And so we looked at how can we convert that existing amenity that is doing nothing into something creative for the community. So we have a sponsor, generosity of Jan Jones with Groom Realty has sponsored our Rec Rover this year. It's a mobile recreation trailer. So we go out to the neighborhood parks. We've been at East Hill Park. We've been at Ellendale Park. We just came to Rivercrest Park this week. We'll be going to Bartlett Grove Park next Tuesday from 9 to noon. And so we're having everything from inflatables, crafts, a little prize wheel that kids can spin a wheel and get a free prize. No cost to doing the Rec Rover. So we're showing up at your neighborhood park. We want the neighbors to get a chance to meet one another, possibly for the first time. And one of the motivations for that was, if you look back at COVID and the way that it disrupted so much of that social engagement, there was so much of a stop to that. So this was one of our ways, how can we get people to come back together? You know, at the Rivercrest event that we popped up on this week, Principal Rose from Rivercrest Elementary School actually came down to the park because she knew we would be there. She wanted to see which of her students might be at the park. And so just seeing how moms and dads and grandparents were coming, they were pushing strollers, they were riding bicycles, they were all coming from the surrounding neighborhood just to see what was going on.
That is really remarkable and so valuable. My kids are grown now, but when they were little, we were always looking for things to do with them. And there are, there's always the playgrounds that you can take them to, and there's always, there's standing things that you can do, but to have opportunities to engage in your own neighborhood and do things that are different and that are unique, I think that's really incredible. If families want to find out where the Rec Rover is going to be, how would they find out that information?
Sure, great question. So the best way to find out where we're going to be is make sure you're following our social media, so the Parks and Recreation Facebook and Instagram accounts. Also on our website, if you go to cityofbartlett.org/parks, you'll see a menu on the left-hand side, Rec Rover, and that shows all the dates, times, and locations that will be. We've got a program through mid-July, and we're going to continue to to add dates as we go forward.
That's very cool.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get in my mind the Reg Rover. Is this a trailer that you go inside?
Well, so it's a trailer that we're pulling to the park, and so we've got that trailer loaded up with everything from inflatables. We've got yard games like cornhole, ladder ball, large Jenga setup. We've got our portable picnic tables and chairs, so we can just show up at the park, open up the trailer, unload, get it all set up, and then everybody can just come on out and have a great time.
It's like a pop-up fun time.
That's right. That's right. You got it.
That's awesome. My other question, you were talking about Nesbitt Park. You were talking about all of the different parks, and I think you're absolutely right. What people think of most frequently is Freeman Park. Mm-hmm. And I wrote an article about Stanky Creek back many years ago for the Bartlett Insights magazine, which is why I know a little bit about it. But I think Nesbitt Park, Stanky Creek, is something that many people don't know about. So for those who are interested in rugged outdoor recreation, whether that be mountain biking or hiking, that's a unique location that is right. You don't have to travel far.
That's right.
So, I mean, if you could talk a little bit about that. And I think... So people, my friends I know often are like, I want to go hiking and I feel like I have to go somewhere, but you don't. Right. There's an opportunity right
so
in your
Nesbitt
back door.
Park is a wonderful hidden gem, so to speak, in the city. It's located right there on Yale Road, just to the west side of Sycamore View Road where it intersects. And so we've got a parking area. There's several kiosks that have information about the park. So Miss Nesbitt deeded her land to the city of Bartlett with the understanding that that land would never be developed for any other activity other than recreational purposes. So our goal has been to allow it to stay in its natural state as much as possible. We've got about 15 miles of mountain biking trails that are in there. We've got a 2-mile hiking trail that is within that park. It's the site of several different races over the course of the year. So there's an endurance 25K, 50K race that raises money for St. Jude every year. The mountain biking community has several different races that they do throughout the year. They do a hot laps event. If you're a mountain biker, go out on Wednesday night, and they do a timed hot laps event every Wednesday if the weather holds. And so there's always something going on there. We're working to partner with the local scout troop to do service projects within that to help maintain some of the trails. And once you go back in there, you almost forget that you're in the city. I mean, you get away from the road noise. You can hear all the animal noises come out, all the various bird songs. You see everything from squirrels to raccoons. I've seen a few coyotes. I've seen snakes, of course. Not my favorite thing, but snakes are out there. Lots of different wildlife, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful location.
And ticks.
And ticks, yes. Yeah, make sure that you get your bug spray, your tick spray. Check yourself after you leave. Make sure you're in good shape.
I attracted some ticks when I hiked the trail.
I'm not surprised.
Back, But anyway, I was like a chimpanzee, picking the ticks. But I mean, that's ticks everywhere. So
that's right. It's their environment too, right?
That's right. That's right. So you talked a little bit about how some of the new activities are stemming from the city's master plan. So there's two questions that I want to ask you, and I'll ask you both, and you can pick which one to answer. So one, if you could share a little bit about the master plan and what's come of it and what we can expect for the future. And then my second question maybe was more of a comment. Much of what is happening now in the city of Bartlett over the past couple of years, Bartlett is like cooler than it's ever been. Like there's so much cool stuff going on. So I guess pick which of those things you want to, but I feel like some of that might be in response to the master plan. So.
Certainly. Yeah. So, when Mayor Parsons was elected and he came in and started his administration, one of the things that he wanted to look at was all of our city services from top to bottom, identify where are gaps in services, how can we do things better, more effectively, more efficiently. In Parks and Rec, from our standpoint, we knew that we needed to update our master plan. And so one of the first things that we did with him when we met was let him know that we need to update the plan, not only because it was time to update it, but one of the purposes for master plan is not just to direct your department's activities and what you're trying to accomplish, but it's required so that you can qualify for grant funds, which are really critical for us to do all the various infrastructure adjustments that we've done. Everything at Freeman Park that has happened over the last several years is tied back to grant funds. And so the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation requires Parks and Recreation systems to have a system-wide master plan that is current within 5 years to qualify for these grants. So our last update was in 2015. COVID prevented us from starting our update when we wanted to, and so when Mayor Parsons took over at the start of his term, we wanted to make it clear that we need to get the ball rolling on this. So he had his full support for us. We started with a needs assessment. We sent out a survey to a random 4,500 addresses in the city of Bartlett. That way, everybody had an equal opportunity to potentially receive the survey and respond to that. So that created a scientific sample of data for this survey. And what we're trying to identify is, what are you looking for in recreation? What are you looking for in activities, in programming, in infrastructure, and what gaps exist? And so we had that scientific sample of data, and then we also opened it up to the general public so anybody could participate and provide their input. And that survey is actually still available on our website, and it is open through August of this year. So again, cityofbartlett.org/parks. Make sure you take the survey if you haven't yet done so, and you can let us know what you're interested in seeing. So we started with our assessment to see where we're at, what are our gaps, and then we started moving forward with, okay, now we need to evaluate and identify what are the areas within the actual physical infrastructure in our parks. So we spent time in all 29 parks, all 1,008 acres, and identifying everything from how many trash cans do we need to have at the park. We currently may only have 2, but we need 4. How many benches do we need to have for people to sit and be able to, whether they're watching their children play on the playground or take a load off and just enjoy the lake at Stone Ridge or the lake over at Blue Lagoon Park? Do we have enough of those park benches, bench swings? What's the condition of our playgrounds? What's the condition of the surfacing of the walking tracks in the parking lot? So we really went down to a very granular level when we were going through the master plan process. Now that we've put all that data together, it took us a little over a year to assimilate all that information into the final plan that got adopted in May of this year. Now that sets the stage and the direction for what we're trying to accomplish. So some of our initial things we're going to focus on is the existing infrastructure. If you look at the growth pattern of the city of Bartlett, we had explosive growth starting in the 80s and 90s, and that's when a lot of the parks were all built, was within that time period. So they're all needing the same level of TLC all within that same time period because they're all about the same age. So we have 21 playgrounds in the park system. 8 of those 21 playgrounds are more than 20 years old. The average lifespan that you should expect from a playground is 20 to 25 years at most. So a large majority of them already need to be addressed because we're in that end cycle. In athletic fields, from the condition of the fencing to the playing surfaces, all those different things are in the plan. So we're going to start addressing seating areas, making sure there's enough benches, bench swings, picnic tables. If the wood needs to be replaced, we're going to replace it. If we don't have enough of those items, we're going to add them in. Trash cans, again, do we have enough? Are they in the right locations? If there's any safety hazards, so if we've got tree roots growing into our walking trails, we're going to start addressing those in this upcoming fiscal year. If the parking area is not sufficient, it's in poor condition, those are some of the items on our agenda as well. And so this is a 10-year plan to guide us for the next 10 years. And we're going to be very aggressive in trying to pursue as many grants as we can to leverage our resources to be able to do things. If you look at the overall price tag of projects that need to be addressed, just looking at existing infrastructure, not adding in new items, we're talking about $15 to $20 million worth of investment that we need to do to go from where we are today to where we really need to be as a system. And the good news is we've already qualified for $600,000 of grants through the Community Development Block Grant. That's going to be applied to Dixon Brewer Park. We'll begin work on that park sometime later this calendar year. We've got a grant through the local Parks and Recreation Fund in process right now. We're requesting $750,000 to upgrade Shadowlawn Park to match the existing budget of $750,000 to address things like the restroom, the playground, the parking area, expanding enough parking. That park is where the new pickleball courts are located. Are either of you pickleball players?
I've played pickleball before. I wouldn't call myself a player, but I have played.
If you haven't played, I definitely encourage you to get out. It's a very addictive game.
It is absolutely
It's
addictive.
like life-size ping pong. So you're on a ping pong table, but you've got a paddle, you've got a wiffle ball. So those Bartlett pickleball courts at Shadowlawn, we're probably averaging 120 to 150 people a day just using the courts. Then the Bartlett Little League uses the baseball fields, and you're looking at 350 to 500 people on a night when they're playing baseball. So the volume that's occurring there, we don't have the infrastructure at that park anymore. That park is one of the oldest within our system. So it was originally developed by the Shelby County Conservation Board. And as municipalities became more independent from a school-based system and so forth, the county began to kind of push those assets into their own municipalities. So in 2005, we took over Shadlawn Park, and it was built in 1965. The restroom facility was built in 1971, so it's over 50 years old.
Wow.
So there's much TLC that's required at that park, and we're trying to leverage those grant dollars to make sure we can address that. So stay tuned, Bartlett. We've got a lot of great things happening. If there's issues that you see, reach out to our office, let us know, because we want to be as responsive to you as we can be in what's out there.
So, I mean, were you going to make?
Well, I've got a couple of questions. One, I want to talk about lakes.
Sure.
But before we do that, let's talk about sporting events.
Mm-hmm.
How many sports, the type sports, does the park system cater to?
Sure. So we actually have to partner with several different organizations to ensure that we're meeting enough of the demand that's out there from a sports standpoint. So from Parks and Rec, we focus on youth baseball and softball, adult softball, and then we also have basketball leagues. The other sports are partnerships with existing sports organizations. So Bartlett Youth Soccer Association has been running our soccer programming since the 1980s. David Kaiser, who's a retired Bartlett high school teacher, has been running that organization since the 1980s and has done a phenomenal job with soccer in the way that sport has grown over the course of time in the city.
And they provide the funding for it.
Right. So they collect funds. They pay the park system a user fee based upon the number of registered participants. And so that's where we're getting money to do upgrades in the soccer facilities. David's great as well about putting in sweat equity. He and his volunteers are out there. They're repairing irrigation heads. They're out there repairing sod. If there's safety issues that they see that they're capable of taking care of, they're going to take care of it and then let us know, hey, Paul, we were at the soccer complex and we just did this, or this, or if you could give us a hand or if you get us a truck over there, we can take care of this. So they've been a wonderful partner for us. Bartlett Little League is an independent baseball league. It's a nationally chartered Little League organization. They play at Shadlawn Park, so we've got enough of a demand for baseball that not only do we run a Parks League, but the Little League also has a league of their own. So they're operating out at Shadlawn Park. We've got lacrosse that's coming online now as an official TSSAA sport, so we're working for partners to get that sport growing. Bartlett Youth Football Association runs the football programming. So a lot of it really is we run the things that we're best at running, and those things that we may not either have the resources or time or energy or the expertise, we're looking for partners to be able to run those opportunities. Another great example is we've started a cornhole league over at the Bartlett Station area, so that the venue at Bartlett Station most Sunday afternoons are either in the newly renovated auditorium space or in the Rainy Banquet Hall, and they're throwing cornholes, and that's run through Bluff City Cornhole League.
That's
so
so
just
fun.
trying to find some creative ways to provide those recreation opportunities.
Yeah.
Now, how about the cricket court?
Right, so cricket, so we've got a cricket pitch over at W.J. Freeman Park. So there is a Arkansas, Tennessee, and Mississippi-based cricket league, and so they rotate their play over at the cricket fields at W.J. Freeman Park. There's cricket fields out in Collierville. There's some over in West Memphis, so they will rotate where they're playing based upon who's available on which days and so forth. So
And they keep those up.
they do, yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, let's go to lakes now.
Okay,
Put you on the spot.
sure.
How many lakes are within the park system?
If I'm wrong on this, it's in the master plan. So www.citybartlett.org/parks. You can find a copy of the master plan. I believe it's 11, if I'm not mistaken. So, and they're called lakes, but they're really retention ponds. So it's stormwater is how we're addressing stormwater in those. And a lot of those lakes, if you've been at Stone Ridge Park lately, aren't very attractive. Unfortunately, with the volume of stormwater that goes through, the amount of silt that goes through there, Stone Ridge Park in particular has a lot of silt buildup that has occurred over the years, and so we've been working hard to identify how can we solve the issue that exists there and also stay on top of it so it doesn't become an issue. That park was built in the mid-1990s, and it's never had any TLC in terms of dredging or removing silt. So we've got about 30 years worth of silt that is built up within Stone Ridge Lake that we need to get pulled out, and we've got to restabilize banks. It's also starting to occur at Yale Road, Davies Plantation, Blue Lagoon, all of those different areas, Appling Lake as well. We've got some issues because of the volume of stormwater. Folks at home, if you cut your grass, Make sure you don't blow your clippings into the street, because guess where those clippings end up? They go in the storm drains, and then the storm drains feed into all of these retention ponds, and these retention ponds get more silt because of those lawn clippings. So blow your clippings back into your yard. It's a healthy way to keep your yard healthy. You get all those clippings, it's fresh, it's going to refertilize and get it going. Don't blow it into the streets.
Now, how about fishing? Do you allow fishing in all of these?
We do, yes. So fishing is permitted at all of our lakes. A fishing license is required for anybody ages 12 and up, so get your license. We do have an annual free fishing day every year in the state of Tennessee. So June 8th was our free fishing day, and that was our children's fishing rodeo over at Appling Lake. So you didn't have to have a license that day, but if it's outside of that, ages 12 and up need to have a license. We do work with TWRA to get several of our different lakes stocked. So we do winter trout, typically at Davies Plantation Lake as well as Yale Road Lake. For the fishing rodeo, we add catfish into that pond. And one of the interesting things about a lake is that it will actually populate itself with fish.
Oh, I didn't know that.
How in the world does that happen?
How
Makes
does
sense.
that happen?
Birds.
Yeah.
Exactly, birds. So birds oftentimes will feed on fish eggs, and so when they have their
I did not know
droppings,
that.
they don't get fully digested, so the bird droppings then get into the lakes, and you can repopulate a lake just through natural order.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. All right, so normally we have 2 guests, and I'm so glad that we didn't, because I feel like we could continue talking for another
Talk all
30
day.
minutes.
That's right.
But we are coming to the end of our 30-minute time frame. So before we end, could you tell us a couple of things that are happening very soon that people need to know about to participate in from the Parks and Rec Department?
Definitely. So Rec Rover, again, that's one of our new initiatives. We'll be out at Bartlett Grove Park next week on the 25th. That's over off of Santa Cruz, just on the east side of Highway 70. So we'll be having some inflatables, some crafts, and some activities over there at the park from 9 to noon. We've got, of course, our big annual fireworks celebration happening the following week on July the 3rd. Parks works very hard with the city services to help put on that event. Free event starts at 4. Fireworks will go off by 9-10 p.m. We're going to have live music and entertainment, the show and shine for the car show. Food trucks will be out there. That same weekend on July the 6th, the second edition of Bartlett Live concert series is going to be at W.J. Freeman Park. You'll have another opportunity on July the 20th. There's so much happening.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up with. Make sure you're following our social media outlets. So the city of Bartlett has a great resource of information of what's going on. The Bartlett Parks and Recreation Department, we've got our social media out there. Make sure you're following along. That way you can get notifications when things are happening.
And tell us the website one more time. You've been really good about mentioning it.
www.cityofbartlett.org/parks. That's our Parks and Recreation main page, and it's got links to all the great activities that we've got going on.
Certainly do. You certainly do have a lot of great activities going on. Thank you so much for being on the Heartbeat of Bartlett. It's been so much fun chatting with you today. Yeah.
I've still got many, many questions.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, book me for a follow-up, and I'll be happy to address that.
I'd be happy. We'd be happy to have you back on a follow-up visit. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Heartbeat of Bartlett. You can find the Heartbeat of Bartlett on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Music, anywhere where you get podcasts. So make sure you find us. And when you do, watch us, like us, subscribe, and make sure you ring that bell. Ring, ding, ding.
Now, you know your mother's going to be watching this, right?
I make her watch, which is why she watches, yeah. And, of course, we want to thank V2 Media. Thank you, V2 Media, for producing this podcast series. We couldn't do it without you, literally. So we appreciate you so much. And we're out.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.